Some people don't understand why we live in the place that we live and why we go through all the hardships that we do, but I think the view behind me speaks for itself. If you're new here, I'm Hala. This is my channel, The Rural Homesteader. I named it that quite a while ago when I started my blog because this is our homestead. It's more modern of a homestead. We didn't come out here and stick a stake in the ground and build a small cabin. We're not off the grid, although we are very out there on our own. As you can see, we do have neighbors, but they're not very close. They're not what you would think of as neighbors if you are from the city or even small town. Normally you can see your neighbors. We can't see any of our neighbors. Funny enough, actually, we can see way over on that treed hill over there. There is a roof that we can see. If you want to talk about being able to see our neighbors. But anyways, that's just how life is out here. And while we don't live right next door to our neighbors and we're not in each other's lives every day, we don't see each other get home from work or out checking the mail, we are really close with all of our neighbors. We all have a very neighborly relationship with each other. When somebody needs help, the other neighbor or neighbors are always there to help. Although we live in the middle of nowhere, we are still a tight-knit small community, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a beautiful way to live. I know a lot of people, and they will never understand why we would live 30 plus minutes from the nearest town, from the nearest gas station, from the nearest groceries. It just doesn't make sense to some people, but it makes sense to us. My children have this beautiful land to roam and run free. We have bears and cougars and wolves and coyotes and bobcats, whatever else. We do still let our kids roam and play, obviously within our supervision. That kind of brings me back around to another part of living out here is we have our guardian dogs. They not only protect our livestock, but they protect our kids as well. And just having the dogs here deters so many predators. They are out barking at night, keeping things away. We have not had a predator problem, knock on wood, since pretty much when we first got the dogs, before they were fully trained on protecting our place. We did have a couple instances where I had some young goats that were killed by a cougar at night while we were home. We've had bear problems in the past with a bear breaking into my chicken coop and eating all my chickens, but again, knock on wood, have not had this issue since we've had the dogs around, and it is very great. But I'm kind of getting off subject now. I really just wanted to talk about living this lifestyle and some of the things that other people may not understand that we do. But again, this background speaks for itself and why we do this. Just having the freedoms that we have out here to take off and go for a drive into thousands of acres and miles of national forest lands where we can hunt and fish and forage and just go for a drive on an evening when we feel like getting out and just being out in nature. Something that not everybody has the luxury of. You know, if you live in town or in a city, some people never see the outside of the city. It's a lot of hard work to have this option for our family, but I also just feel very blessed that we are able to do this. When you get this far out, there's just some kind of magical peace that you just don't get to experience when you live closer to town and live off of a busy road. We do spend more money on fuel because of all the driving that we have to do, but just try to limit our trips into town to once a week at most. When you get used to living this lifestyle, it doesn't really bother you. All of the conveniences that you may have in town, you don't really care about them so much anymore. Another thing that some people may not understand about living out here is the long, hard winters. And I will admit, winters are so tough. We say up here that winters are 6 months long. They pretty much start in October and don't end until April or May. The reason it starts so early and ends so late is because that's when we start having freezing temperatures. In fact, sometimes we have to start having a fire at night in the house in August, at the end of August. Isn't that crazy? And then some years we will be still burning a fire in May, which in May I was still having a fire, not every night, but multiple times, because that is our only source of heat. We get a ton of snow out here. It is a pain to move snow and deal with the damage and just everything, and then waiting for the snow to melt in the spring is tough. Sometimes there are just sacrifices that you have to be willing to make to have certain things. Living out here in this beautiful place is definitely worth all of these things for our family. It may not be worth it for everybody, but for us, it's definitely worth it. I get told all the time, I could never do that. I could never stay home alone while my husband's at work. I could never deal with the long, hard winters. I could never live so far from town, but this has been my entire life. I grew up living far away from town, not quite as remote as we are now, but still pretty out there. Now that I'm an adult and I'm raising my children out here, I love it, and I still would not trade it for the world. When we go to places that are within the city and we have access to all of the luxuries of being in the city, like fresh groceries that are cheap and not super expensive, the same day Amazon delivery. You know, we're lucky if we get something from Amazon within 2 weeks, and we can order a lot of stuff online and have it shipped out here, but there's also a lot of things that we just don't have access to, and if we want them, we have to be willing to drive 3 hours to the nearest big city. We don't, so we just make do with what we do have. We just have mom and pop grocery stores. A little bit farther away, we have some corporate stores that we go to once in a while, but for the most part, we hunt and fish for our food. We used to raise cattle, but because our life got too busy, we had to put that on the back burner. We still have some beef left over from our last round of beef, but we do try to hunt and provide as much of our food from the woods as possible, because not only is it the best for you, it feels really good knowing that you can go out there and provide meat for your family for the entire year if you are successful in your hunting and fishing, of course. It's definitely a must to raise some of your own animals for food, and same with growing some of your own food. It's definitely a must if you want to live out here and live this very rural, remote lifestyle like we do. Another thing that really helps us be successful in living this life is our heavy equipment, which not everybody out here has this kind of stuff. In fact, most people don't, which makes it kind of a barter thing that we can either trade with people, or we can use it to make a little extra money when they need a job done. It's nice having the equipment out here, because otherwise, you know, any one of the people that live out here may have to go to town and rent one and then have it hauled out here. But with us having equipment in the neighborhood, it just makes it super nice to do so many jobs. The video I posted a while back about moving the shed, one of the sheds we did move without heavy equipment, but the first shed we moved, we wouldn't have been able to do it without my husband's equipment. It's a must-have out here. I'm not gonna lie, it would be hard to live out here without equipment. We've done it before in the past, although we did have a tractor in our first years out here. It's pretty hard to live out here without some kind of piece of equipment. Can't talk about enough the freedom that we have living out here versus living in a town or close to a town. This is what real freedom feels like. It's such a good feeling just knowing that you have the freedom to make decisions about your own property on your own. We can shoot guns, we can hunt on our own property, and we don't have to ask for anyone's permission, because there's nobody out here telling us what to do or watching us. We don't have any kind of curfews or, you know, noise ordinances. We could make noise all night long if we wanted to. Not that we ever have and ever will. It truly is amazing having all these freedoms. While there are many sacrifices that we make to live out here, our family feels as if every single one of them is worth it. And the beautiful view, the mountains, the sounds, the smell of the air, everything about it, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I am happy to make those sacrifices so we can live this beautiful life that we live out here. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy my videos or like learning about this lifestyle that I live, please subscribe and follow along. Leave me a comment if anything interests you or if you have any questions about our lifestyle. I am happy to answer them.